Welcome to the October 1995 SBDS update. I'm Brian Stockton along with Mark Pluckhorn. Today we'll be going through the functional changes for SBDS. We'll be using the 1996 Taurus and Sable configuration along with the 1995 Explorer Limited. In addition to the new tools available on SBDS, we've also made some screen changes. One of the first screen changes you're going to notice looking to the screen is our cursor. We've changed the cursor into a crosshair design. This is intended to help you locate the cursor on the screen. Another change is in the information module. And we'll select recalls and programs. We now can select these by two ways, by number or by year and vehicle. We'll start off with by number. We have three scroll boxes and a subject box. In the first scroll box, you'll select the year that you're working with. In the second scroll box, we list out the types of information that's available for that year. We have B's, which are service notification programs, E's, which are emission recalls, L's, which are special field actions, M's, which are also notification programs, and S's, which are safety recalls. After selecting the type of information you're looking for, the third scroll box lists all the individual programs or recalls by number. By scrolling each one of these numbers, the subject box will list and display the title and a brief summary about that recall or program. We're going to back up and go into select by year and vehicle. And again, we have three scroll boxes. In the first scroll box, you'll again select the year. In this case, we'll stay with the 1992. Then you'll select the vehicle model you're working on. We'll scroll to Econoline. In this case, 1992 Econoline has three applicable programs. Scroll to the appropriate program or recall, and the subject box will then list out and display the title and a brief summary about that program or recall.
The October 95 update has streamlined some of the SBDS tools to make the tools a little more efficient. One of those tools that we'd like to show you is in the powertrain module, the DCL display tool, and we're going to be using the 95 Explorer here. We go in and touch continue, and that goes in and gets the tool list for us. When we get into the tool list, we'll go into categories and select electronic engine controls, and then go select DCL display. On previous software, we would show the hookup screen and no auxiliary adapter hookups would be shown. That would be chosen after we selected the parameters. And then on this new software, you can see that the fuel Schrader valve and the transmission line pressure port is now there for you to hook up at this point. So we go in, and if we wanted to choose an auxiliary adapter, we would hook it up now and then turn the key on, touch continue, and we'd go into the DCL parameter selection screen. With the new software, once we get into the DCL parameter selection screen, we're going to go into the miscellaneous box, which is the lower left-hand corner of SBDS, and then we want to choose either line or fuel, whichever adapter that you happen to select. Once we get there, we want to choose table, and then it'll take us right into the parameter selection. And as you can see here on the screen, I can choose either fuel or I can choose line, whichever one I so desire. Now, if you go ahead and choose fuel and you've got it hooked up correctly, as you touch continue, SBDS will immediately take you into the DCL table display. If the adapters aren't hooked up, which I left them unhooked at this point to show you the screens that will come up, is SBDS immediately goes out and tries to look for that connection. And as you can see on the screen, it can't see the connection at this time. So we have two options. We can either go back and make the connection and touch retest, which would be this button here where the cursor's at right now, or we can select continue and move right on and deselect that parameter so it's not viewed when we go in and look at DCL display. So there's our DCL display screen. Now, one of the other changes that we've made to SBDS for this revision of software is the road test button. previous software, if you would touch road test, the parameters that we have selected on the screen right now would immediately be downloaded to the PVA. With the new software, when you touch the road test button, it's going to take you right into the parameter selection screen to allow you to make selections in the parameter selection screen, either to add or subtract parameters, however you desire, before you go ahead and download those parameters. So as soon as we get to the parameter selection screen, which has come up right now, you can see that you can go through the parameters now and either deselect or reselect some of the other parameters that are available to you to go ahead and make your road test. Once you have your parameters chosen, if you go ahead and touch continue, now we'll go ahead and download the PVA. And again, it's going to streamline the operation and allow you a little more flexibility as you're working with the road test selections. Now all you have to do at this point is go ahead and follow your instruction hookup screen, and we'll be all set for that tool. So we'll go back to the main menu. Now, if you were going to select the main menu at this point, if somebody would try and go in and use the tool for let's say, for example, power balance or some other tool for SBDS, you'll notice the little red box down here in the lower right-hand corner. It says the PVA is configured for a road test. Any tools that require the PVA will not be available until you select upload session. So at this point, it gives you a warning that the tool is not available, SBDS is not available for any other functions because you've got it downloaded for a road test. So from there, we'll go back to the main menu. We're talking about screen changes now, so the miscellaneous module has another one that you're going to notice. When you go into miscellaneous module, you're going to see that we have an update VIN entry. This update VIN entry is not for technician use. It's designed for the engineers out in the garage that develop tools and testers and meters. So, and it's password protected, as you can see on the screen. You need a password to go in there and use that. So it's not going to be something that the technician is going to go ahead and use. So we'll cancel that, and we'll go back to the main menu. One of the other pieces that we wanted to talk to you about was in the upload session, we used to see our diagnostic trouble codes when we'd go into powertrain and we'd go in and show playback function. Diagnostic trouble codes after we have made a recording would be an automatic screen. This screen is no longer an automatic screen. You can see the new screen that comes up will include the diagnostic trouble code button. Here's our diagnostic trouble code button right here. And previous software, this diagnostic trouble code screen automatically would come up as you selected a graph. And here's your diagnostic trouble code screen, just like the one you used to view in previous revisions of software. At this point, we can return. And once we return to the screen, we can either choose graph, item, histogram, or the diagnostic trouble codes button. So it's your option at that point. We'll go back to the main menu. Along with the tools that we've already discussed and the changes that we've already discussed, we've also made some changes and enhancements to the guided diagnostics routine and the body chassis electrical and the powertrain toolboxes. And I'm going to take you through the guided diagnostics routine, and then Brian's going to take you through body chassis electrical and the powertrain. So we'll go into the powertrain module. We still have the 95 Explorer highlighted, and we're going to take you into the guided diagnostic routine. Now there's two new tools that are available in guided diagnostics, and that's the two we'd like to show you. And those are emissions compliance and poor fuel economy. And I'm going to take you into the emissions compliance routine. Once we get into the tool, you'll see some of the options that are available to you. Under preliminary checks, we'll go into highlight preliminary checks. We'll go in there, and you can see as soon as the screen comes up, that we have HCs, CO, NOx, catalyst diagnostics, O2S diagnostics, and then thermactor diagnostics. And just to show you an example of one, we'll go into the O2S diagnostics, and you can take a look at what they want you to do when you get in there. And again, these are preliminary checks. So they give you a good description of what they want you to check and how they want you to go about doing the preliminary check. Now we'll back up, and we're going to go back and show you just a brief slide of the poor fuel economy. And we have to go back into the powertrain module. Still with the 95 Explorer highlighted. We'll take you into the poor fuel economy and show you what's available under poor fuel economy for preliminary checks. Here's a preliminary checks for poor fuel economy. And once you go in there, you'll be able to see the options that are available to you. So we have fuel economy overview, coolant level, electrical connections, under hood fuses, fusible links, fuel and pressure regulator hose, throttle cruise cable binding, vacuum line connections, and air cleaner duct. And that pretty well wraps up the guided diagnostics portion.
The BCE module has two new additions for the Explorer Limited: suspension air and suspension ride control. Looking at the screen, we'll go into the body chassis electrical toolbox. We'll continue on with the Explorer VIN number. And we're going to scroll through categories to suspension air. Again, once selecting this category, we have the typical self-test, function test, DCL display, wiggle test, preliminary checks, and system description. We're going to go into function test. SBDS asks if this vehicle is a limited edition or not. It is. And we'll continue on. Gives us the correct hookup. SBDS asks if we have the vehicle running to avoid discharging the battery. We have a battery charger connected behind us to keep the battery up. And here's our air suspension function test screen. Again, like our other function tests, all of our inputs are on the left-hand side and our outputs are on the right-hand side. You'll see toggle buttons for turning things on and off, and you'll also see activate buttons, which also turn things on. In previous releases of SBDS, you could toggle a feature on by selecting toggle, then again toggle it off, and the screen would refresh. Now it's necessary to hit the reset button to clean off any of the past data on the screen. This vehicle has an air ride suspension, and the air springs are part of the shocks themselves. So on the limited vehicle, it has the ability to raise and lower the vehicle given inputs from height sensors, front and rear. So if we'll look over to this Explorer, I'm going to go ahead and turn the air compressor on, and then turn the front fill solenoids on, and we have a white piece of tape going across the wheel well lip. And you can hear the air compressor running in my background. I'm going to turn the compressor off. And again, another function test, this one also is the same. We can turn features on and off by selecting the toggle feature. Another unique feature to this Explorer is we have an activate button down at the bottom that tells us we can set ride heights permanently. So on this one particular vehicle, you can set up how the vehicle should ride, or in other words, calibrate the height of the vehicle. Now, if you're not familiar with the acronyms on the screen, there are two ways to select information or help. One is selecting description. And this will give you schematic, input outputs, functional descriptions, or you can select backup to the function test, and then we'll select navigate in the far left-hand corner and access the help menu. From this screen, we're going to go into screen description. This will give us specific information regarding the air suspension function test. Gives us notes on the ARC, the automatic ride control module. In addition, we have a hot button for the pneumatic system test. Okay. We'll back out of these screens. So again, if you're not familiar with using this subsystem, or if you've not used the function test in the new Explorer Limited, you're going to want to investigate the information in help and also in system description. We're going to back into the suspension ride control by selecting Navigate, back to the main menu screen, select Ride Control, go into the function test, again, SBDS, we have the vehicle running to keep the battery up to charge. And here's our ride control function test. Again, on the left-hand side we have inputs, and on the right-hand side we have outputs. So you can look at your left front shock actuator override or your right front shock, and you can turn the shock absorbers to a firm or a soft condition. Okay. Again, if you're not familiar with this system, make sure you go into the system description area of the screen before trying to diagnose the system on the vehicle. In addition to the new Explorer Limited features, we also have the neutral tow feature available on the 1996 Explorer four-wheel drive vehicles. This will be available in the first part of 1996, and we'll be covering it in great detail in the February video of SBDS. The new 1996 Taurus and Sable have been added in BCE and in Powertrain Toolbox. We're going to go to BCE Toolbox, select Continue. We have a 1996 Taurus VIN number. And these are all the categories that are now available for the 1996 Taurus and Sable. Anti-theft, anti-theft key recognition, brakes anti-lock, climate control, communication network, defrost, rear window, mirrors, door locks, keyless entry, door locks power, lighting, illuminated entry, lighting interior, passive restraint airbag, steering power, variable assist, warning lamps and chime, windows power, wiper washer front, road test utilities, and again, testers and meters. We're going to start off in anti-theft key recognition. And again, in anti-theft key recognition, we have the usual tools: self-test, function test, DCL display, preliminary checks, and system description. We're going to go into function test, select Continue. SBDS asks if we have a vehicle that's equipped with key recognition, and we do. Select Yes and Continue. Connect the vehicle and turn the key to the on position. SBS tells us for important information on erasing and programming key codes, please refer to the system description. Tells us to insert the key and switch to run. Touch Continue. The anti-theft system uses the PATS module, which is the passive anti-theft system, and you'll see that listed in the center of the screen. Again, like our other function tests, all of our inputs are on the left-hand side and our outputs are on the right-hand side. So we can turn the indicator lamp on and off, and we can also activate a function to erase any key codes that are in the system. Again, previously SBDS recommended to use description if you're unfamiliar with it. So again, if we'll go to the description hot button, we'll have access to a schematic, input outputs, and functional descriptions to find out how the system works. I'm going to go ahead and back out and go to the main menu for BCE by selecting Navigate and back to Menu. Another new category for SBDS is the airbag, passive restraint. In this module we have self-test, DCL display, preliminary checks, and system description. We're going to start off in DCL display. Again, we have the hookups for the link tool. And as usual in DCL display, we have three options to view this: table, item, and histogram. I'm going to select table. And these are all the inputs and outputs that are available for the airbag passive restraint system. By selecting each one of these, as I highlight it, it'll tell me in the lower right-hand corner of the screen what the abbreviation means. In this case, this is crash sensor number 1, ground resistance. I'll select all of them and press continue. In this case, I get the resistance values for the crash sensors that feed back into the PATS module. This should be useful in diagnosing airbag concerns using the shop manual. I'm going to go back to the main menu again for BCE, and we'll go into one more module. I'm going to go into door locks, and I'm going to select wiggle test. Another new screen change for SBDS in wiggle test is when you first initialize the test routine, SBDS will come up and tell you which modules are being used to perform this function. First, it asks me if we have the power door lock switch, which we do. Select continue. Give the appropriate hookups. And this is our new SBDS screen. SBDS tells us modules supporting wiggle test and modules not supporting wiggle test. In this case, the gym is supporting it. If you need more information again on how this system operates, touching description, will give us more information on how that circuit works. I'm going to go back to the main menu. And that covers a few of the updates for the new 1996 Taurus and Sable.
The October 95 update has new powertrain coverage for 3 new vehicles. And those vehicles are 5-liter Explorer 2-wheel drive, the 3-liter Taurus Sable Duratec 4-valve, and the 3-liter Taurus Sable Vulcan 2-valve. And we're going to go and show you the powertrain module tool list. So we'll go to the powertrain module here for the 1996 Taurus, touch continue, and we'll go in and get the tool list to show you the tools. We have guided diagnostics, we have base engine, power balance test, cranking data display, and relative compression, electronic engine controls. We have all the same self-tests, DCL display, idle data display. We have the fuel system, fuel pressure test. We have the fuel leak down test, relative injector flow test, and you'll notice in the ignition system test we only have spark duration. All 3 of those vehicles use the integrated EDIS ignition system. Transmission, we have the trans range selector test, the electronic trans pressure test, DCL display, DCL recorder monitor, and customer flight recorder. We also have anti-theft and the self-test, the function test, DCL display, the wiggle test. We have anti-theft key recognition program. We have the brakes anti-lock, and then we have road tests and testers and meters. Now we're going to back up for just a second and go back into electronic engine controls. And in electronic engine controls under PCM reprogramming, we've also added a few vehicles. We've added the 1.9 liter Escort Tracer. We've added the 1996 3-liter Flex Fuel Taurus, and we've added the 1996 3-liter and 4-liter Aerostar. Now last but not least, we're going to go into the information module. And in the information module, as always, SBDS is going to support wiring diagrams, which is EVTMs, the electrical vacuum troubleshooting manuals, engine emissions fact summary book, the Powertrain Control Emission Diagnostics Manual, recall and owner notifications, and TSBs. Well, that pretty well wraps up the 1995 October release, and we would like you to remember that if you have any problems with SBDS, please don't hesitate to call the SBDS Support Center or the Ford Tech Hotline. And as always, the technician questionnaire that comes in your update kit, we would like to hear your comments on all the Service Bay products, being SBDS, SBTS, SBIS, and NGS. And from Brian and myself, as always, keep up the good work, and we'll be looking to see you again in February.